Well, it is the 28th day of January 2016. Of course, you're watching Just the Facts with me, Brenda Zederedidu. Now, tonight we shall be discussing about the firing of Evans Ondieki, who was the Environment, Water and Energy Natural Resources at the Nairobi County Government. Now, of course, we know that Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero sacked Ondieki on grounds that he's not performing. And again, the move has elicited a lot of mixed reactions, of course, from some members of County Assembly and, of course, from Ondieki himself. At the same time, Ondieki's sacking comes days after Kidero made far-reaching changes at the City Hall in a move aimed at rooting out widespread corruption. Of course, we know that Nairobi City County Government has had a lot of corruption allegations. So Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero says that his move is aimed at curbing corruption in the country. Now, tonight in our studio, we are privileged to have Makongeni, a member of County Assembly, that is Peter Imwatok. And we were also expecting Evans Ondieki himself to be here, but apparently he's not been able to be here due to unavoidable circumstances. But in case he makes it to our studio tonight, we shall be engaging him. And of course, we can start the conversation via our Twitter handle, that is at Ebro Africa News, at Ebro Africa TV, or even at Zeda Brenda. And of course, as usual, you can SMS us your comments or your views via our SMS line 21292, and I shall be sampling some of your comments during the show, and of course, even at the end of the show. Thank you so much, Peter, for joining us. And one question is, Ondieki's appointment comes immediately after we know that Evans Kidero, Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero, fell out in terms of his working relationship with John Gakuo. Then came in, Evans Ondieki was appointed in 2014 October. Then again, Ondieki now tends to have fallen into the same trap that this other person fell into. But why do you think Evans Kidero decided to lay off Ondieki?
First of all, Brenda, thank you for inviting me for a second time in this studio. And for a beginning, I must say, as you talk about environment, I'm a member of the Environment Committee.
And you're the same person who impeached Ondieki the first time. I
was among the group which impeached Ondieki the last time. And as a member of the Environment Committee, on many occasions, my chairman travels a lot. I chair those meetings. So when you talk about the issue of transiting from Gakuo then, there were issues then, on the same issue of environment. Let's narrow down to real issues. And as a committee, we've also raised issues even with the governor, how the sector is being run from the executive member, even the chief officer, who is Dr. Leo Yaki. And when things went offhand in December, I believe you've heard on the news, on radios, I complaining so much about the sector, in particular how the sector is being run, because Nairobi was dirty. Though our governor had lost the father, then he traveled out at least to relax a bit and come back, but things were out of hand. And if you read the County Government Act, bestows all the powers of the running of the sector in the chief officer and the CC member, who is a policy maker, who is now Ondieki.
Okay.
But in several occasions, we tried as a committee to invite these people before the Committee of Environment and Natural Resources. But they never appeared. They never appeared.
So does it mean, because you're saying Ondieki takes over after John Gakuo, so it means, in your point of view, John Gakuo also didn't perform?
Yeah.
So the two people who've been in office have never performed? In
a government, there are changes. The county government and the constitution gives the powers to the head of the government, which is the governor of the city, to realign his government as best he wishes. Us as a county assembly members, you don't only do approvals. After vetting, he forwards to us, we approve whoever he feels he can work with him according to his vision to the county.
Okay.
So to us...
So are you supporting the sacking of Ondieki?
As a committee, we believe we support fully as a Committee of Environment and Natural Resources, because what Nairobians are crying is, why now? Nairobi is dirtier than ever before.
It is actually coming at a time when Nairobians are crying
all over.
Because there's a lot of garbage.
If you ask a question today, when did this CC member, who is now Ondieki, and the chief officer, I'm happy even the governor has even transferred the chief officer herself to a lesser position in the county. Not
That's
the position,
demoting.
Demoting the chief officer, who's their lawyer, to a lesser position, because...
But don't you think Ondieki should have also been demoted instead of now being fired?
But there's no other position a CC can have, because a policy maker. It means the failure started from the policy making of the department. The implementer is the chief officer. If there are no proper policies, if you ask Ondieki today, if he comes before this TV, ask him, since he was sworn in as the CC member for Environment and Natural Resources, what kind of policy has he come up with as a minister in charge to articulate the issue of garbage collection in Nairobi and waste management in the city?
Many have attributed Ondieki's sacking to political wars between the governor himself and Ondieki.
I can assure you, there's some things that are inconsequential. I don't see where Ondieki can be a politician more than the governor of the city.
But in many circumstances, it is said that he strongly opposed the governor, like in open.
No, we want to ask also a simple question. When did you start opposing this governor as the CEC? Ondieki was appointed when he came into power in 2013. When did he start opposing the governor? When has he ever gone to a national TV or a radio station and tell guys, Nairobians, this governor has done wrong? Has he ever done until yesterday when he was fired?
Okay, according to Ondieki, the misunderstanding started when, I wish Ondieki was here to also defend himself, but he's not here due to unavoidable circumstances. But he says it was after a meeting that they had.
Where?
Within the county, within the city.
Let me put you in a perspective, Brenda. In 2014, when Ondieki was a public minister, public works and roads minister, the assembly members, through Mheshimiwa Chege Mwaura and I, we proposed a motion of impeachment against Ondieki. And
Why?
We impeached Ondieki because of incompetency in the sector and infights and political warlords in the sector than the performance of the county issues. And we impeached him. We formed even another committee which took about 1 week to question Ondieki, to question all the witnesses. Unfortunately, he ran to court and the court reinstated him. And
Which
the same
again,
governor,
right now, he's saying that he's
governor
going to
is
the
saying
court.
is playing dirty to him is the same who stood by him and said, no, he's my executive man. Because I have to respect the court. Because the County Government Act says, as when Assembly immediately impeaches an executive member, the governor has no choice than to relieve him. But before the governor relieves him, he went to court. And the court reinstated. We could not be talking about Ondieki.
But then again, right now, he says that he said he was going to court today, which I'm yet to know whether he went to court today to actually contest his sacking.
On the basis of what? Even Nairobians will see. When we talk about Nairobi's dirty, for heaven's sake, Brenda, Nairobi's dirty and filthy.
But
and the County Government Act says the only way the governor can fire a CC member, number one, is incompetency.
But at the same time, Peter, there is a member of Assembly, or member of Nairobi County Assembly, who's from the TNA side, who actually this week gave out a statement saying that the Nairobi boss, that is Evans Kidero, should not use cartels as an excuse of not performing. Because at the end of the day, as much as he's employed other people to carry out the duties they've been given, the governor himself is accountable to the people who elected him, and even the ones who did not elect him.
That's why you see, now when my colleague speaks, or he speaks as a position of the county in the assembly. And first of all, we must tell the MCS from the Jubilee side, they have failed Nairobians. Because if you are now coming after the government has made changes, you start crying foul and say the governor has done this. What we are saying is the governor is realigning the government of the day.
But, okay, the first question is, do you believe there's corruption in the county government?
If for the last 1 month, I've even gone to the CID to record a statement, personally, because I was speaking on behalf of Environment Committee, where the same chief officer who has been in this county for more than 15 years took me to the CIDs, saying I'm maligning her name of incompetency and corruption in the sector. And the same sector is where Ondieki is heading. And I said, no, Ondieki is heading a sector with the chief officer which is not performing because the cartels have taken over the sector.
So in short, there's a lot of corruption.
Let's agree one thing. The County Government Act does not say the governor is accountable for the sector. It says the chief officer and the minister in charge, they are accountable for the daily realignment and running of the sector. So when the governor realizes there's a problem in this sector, he has to crack the whip, the relevant officers, which Dr. Kidero has cracked the whip so far by firing the policymaker and then transferring the implement of the policies.
Okay.
So that to allow the chief engineer now, who is the chief engineer of the county, who has done a tremendous job, Engineer Christine, she has now taken over the environment docket. And we believe Nairobi now is moving to a right direction. All the filth will be cleaned in the city.
But I asked you, do you believe there's corruption in the county government?
Of course, there's no government without corruption in the central government.
Okay, so in short, you're saying there's corruption. Then my second question is, when there's corruption in the county government, the reshuffling that Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero is making, do you believe it's going to fight corruption? Because why do I ask? It's because there are allegations that as much as he's doing the reshuffling, he's removing a certain ethnic community from this docket and bringing in people that it's supposedly ready to work with, who are somehow going to cover up some of these corruption allegations.
Brenda, let's be very realistic here. We are not all the cry of Kenyans. Personally, I'm from a minority tribe. I don't want to subscribe to tribal cocoons. Before Ondieki was fired, when he was a CC member for environment, when he was fired from the, before he was fired in the docket, he didn't say the Kisses had been victimized. He was a CC for the county. Leah, the same lady who is the head of, is a Luo, where Dr. Kidero comes from, but he has authority to transfer her because she has stayed in City Hall for more than 15 years. There are also acts and regulations within this county that you must follow as a governor. You cannot just come and stand. The powers is given to him, transfer, fire this, fire this. There are officers, he has no full jurisdictions for some acts.
So Ondieki's exit is a sigh of relief to your committee?
Very.
And you believe that the
I can say that
you believe that the next person who is Tom Odong, who's on an acting capacity, will try and change the image of Nairobi when it comes to garbage?
We believe so because the person now running the sector as accounting officer is tested, the chief engineer, Engineer Christine. She's been there as a lady. I don't have any bad motives about ladies. We respect them. As in the county of Nairobi, we have about 4 ladies. Anne Othoro, the Minister of Trade. Anne Lokidor, who is now acting as the Minister for Education and the Minister for ICT. You get Mercy Kamau, the Minister of Public Works, for Public Service, who has routed all the ghost workers in the county. You find an officer like another one in different sectors in the county. They have really performed exemplary. But what you are saying in this particular sector of environment, there was a problem. And our governor has listened to the cries of the entire Nairobians. He has seen it, that the problem here is the policy-making system and the implementing system.
So it has nothing to do with the political fight?
It has nothing to do with political fights. Let me tell you the shenanigans which are there. Let me just finish. When we impeached Ondiek then, when he was the public works minister, he was working with the same chief officer now who Kidero has felt his war to transform the health sector, the environment sector. But there was a lot of infights. Ondiek is so political than being executive.
I wish Ondeki was here to defend himself. And yeah. And my other question is, of course, we know that as much as we are saying that he is a lawyer by profession, we know that, and he was employed, you know, and of course being employed from an ordinary Kenyan who's an employee somewhere, again, he got into county government, becoming a civil servant. But my question is, on several occasions, there have been allegations that he's been spotted with different MPs who are eyeing the seat. At the recent one was being the former devolution cabinet secretary, Anne Waiguru. Though Ondieki is claiming that he's been sacked because he has rather endorsed the former CS for the seat come 2017.
I can bet you one thing on the political realm of Nairobi, I don't see Ondiek making a big impact. Why am I saying so? Ondiek has even represented me in court. I told you he's my elder in church, but when it reaches ideologically, we differ. Ondiek, even when he was a minister, he represented me in court until Justice Lanaola said, Mheshimiwa, this guy cannot represent because now he's a civil servant. I had to take another lawyer. So when Ondiek comes and says because he's been spotted, Ondiek is a lawyer of repute. He can give advice to whoever clients he used to have, he can give to anyone. But the issue of politics, for heaven's sake, let's see how it can play out. I believe when Ondiek comes to my ward today to vie for MCA seat, I can give him a run for his money. I can assure you, and he'll not win. That I can guarantee you.
Oh, okay, those are your words. Of course, you can continue engaging us via Twitter handle at Ebru Africa TV, at Ebru Africa News, or even at Zeda Brand, and of course via SMS line 2129229. And just before we take a short break, Peter, let me ask you one more question. The other question is, do you think that the committee, the environment committee that you sit in, has also failed Nairobians, rather failed?
Let me tell you one thing. Whether the governor of the city, His Excellency Dr. Kidero, had fired Ondiek or not, and the chief officer involved, had already placed a motion before the speaker.
When did you place it?
About on 16th of this month. I think on 16th of this month, yeah.
So it was just a matter of being
tabled before the assembly. In fact, I asked the speaker to recall the assembly for emergency to discuss the aspect of environment in the county. And immediately was to table that motion and subsequently table another motion of no confidence against the sector heads, who is Ondiek and the chief officer. In fact, the governor, because I don't believe there's anywhere, any sane court in Kenya could have reinstated Ondiek and Leah in that sector when Nairobi is dirty as the capital city of this country. I was ready to move that motion. And good for them, the governor saw it's best for them to align this government.
Okay, so you're saying that the governor saw your motion. So
I'm not saying he saw, he was threatened by my motion, because he also saw what's happening in Nairobi. Because it was all over on Twitter, on Facebook. Don't you
think that probably he had an idea that an MCA has already...
No, I understand the governor of the city. He's a quiet guy, but a very wise guy who understands what he wants to do for Nairobians. I can guarantee you that. So,
as we speak now, where can you rate the Nairobi governor?
Nairobi governor, I can rate him 60 over 100. Why am I saying so? let's go into the real issues of development agenda of the county. When Kidero came into power, there was not even a plan for this county. There's no plan. Nairobi was like a market, like Marikiti. You just walk in, put your kiosk, walk in and do everything. Now we have an integrated plan for the next 30 years for the county. Whoever Kidero is a governor or not, whoever comes there is approved by the assembly, by us, that plan. So you have to follow up a plan that has been approved by the representative of the people. It's out of Kidero's work. If you look, let me give a typical example of my ward. When I was sworn in, for the last 16 years, where I received a tetanus charge on my hand, the hospital was closed. But yesterday, we opened another clinic in Kaloleni. In the next 1 month, we're opening, which was closed 16 years down the line.
But Peter, it is not just a matter. It is not just a matter of today is opening a clinic here.
No,
tomorrow is launching a project.
The development agenda.
What Nairobians need to see is a developed, changed Nairobi. Because recently you saw the planting of the grass, which brought a lot of, it elicited a lot of mixed reactions.
Development is never static or instant. Development is always progressive. For example, what you're saying about the grass. In fact, in our committee, we summoned Ondiek and the chief officer before our committee. I was chairing the meeting that day. Before the committee, they played childish before us. Another one saying 120 million was given. Ondiek is saying 120 million was given. The chief officer is producing documents before my committee of 48 million.
So how much was used to?
Really, it was 43 million. The county government.
Just to plant all that grass cost?
It was a long stretch from Mombasa Road to Museum Hill. It was a subcontract of 8 subcontractors, different contractors.
Yeah, so it cost us as Nairobians 43 million.
43 million.
Was it worth it?
The central government gave it.
Was it worth it?
That's a question can be asked.
Because it's just grass and some plants.
No. There's a lot of work to be done. You cannot just come in place and plant grass and leave it grows there. There are a lot of underground preparation, those pebbling.
Which cost Nairobians 43 million. So it was worth it.
It was worth it. So far, people can see it was worth it.
So there was no corruption there?
There was no corruption there. That I can say.
And don't you think that Ondieki did a good job there?
By that, the reason why we call Ondieki in a committee, even in the mainstream media, there was a contradiction. Ondieki was saying the county government was given 120 million. And the chief officer was saying, no, kindly, this is the document. The central government gave towards this project 25 million. And
why contradiction in terms of amount?
He's a political guy, let me tell you. Ondieki is more political than a professional.
And that is why I started by asking you, Peter, don't you think Ondieki's sacking is more political than performance?
It's not political. Here is a basis of performance. Now Ondieki is putting on a political platform. No. The issue is performance. In
so
the
that
County
is something
Act,
you believe that Nairobians will rally behind?
I believe 100%. If Ondieki could have performed, then he could have performed under the docket of public works. Until the governor of the city again moved Ondieki to environment and moved Mohammed from ICT to public works. Now people are seeing roads being repaired in Nairobi, new roads like my own ward. I have opened a road of 1.3 kilometers tarmac. Because Mohammed came to that docket. If Ondieki could be there, it would be the same suckers.
Let's not even go into terms of opening the roads, because
no,
some of the roads that have been opened, the quality is so wanting.
What I'm saying in short is, out of Ondieki, there's something comes in. In Ondieki, there's nothing comes in, apart from theatrics. In fact, in city, we call him Inspector Mwala.
Those are your words.
That's my words. I can say that because as members of the county assembly, you go to Ondieki's office, he'll promise you all heavens. Knowing very well practical, this is not possible.
Then why wait until a few months to the general elections? Because Ondieki was appointed in 2014 October. Then now we are in 2016, just a few months to the elections.
No, Ondieki was appointed first.
If your committee knew that Ondieki is not performing, and then you're the first person to bring an impeachment motion against him for the first time, then now
for the second time, let me tell you.
Okay, for the second time. Why let Ondieki be sacked now and not then?
Ondieki initially, let's go back to history. Early 2014, before Ondieki was moved to this environment docket, we as the County Assembly of Nairobi, in our own wisdom, sacked Ondieki. And Ondieki rushed to court to get an injunction. And we constituted an ad hoc committee of 7 members. Ondieki came with a barricade of almost 10 lawyers before that committee. And because the committee, as you understand, when you have 10 lawyers, now you are a committee of 7.
You felt threatened.
It's an intimidatory kind of aspect in that committee. And Ondieki was let off the hook. Immediately was let off the hook, the governor felt now, let me move him from that docket to a different docket, which is now environment. So within 2014, that year, 2015, you cannot say that guy is competent immediately. So, well, let's see what happens. But now from August last year, it's been a problem in the committee. Ondiek, what's happening in this sector?
Did you summon him again after the first?
We summoned Ondiek. The County Government Act says the executive member of the county government failure to appear before a committee without a written approval of the governor is liable to be sacked by the governor or the county assembly. Ondiek and her chief officer, they have failed more than 5. And those are the things I was going to cite out.
So well, then why didn't the committee take the approach?
No, we are in recess since November. And that's why when you place this motion now, it was going to get out of hand, because whenever we call them, they send a director to come before the committee, like the waste management bill. That's the first bill they brought before the committee. And you say, no, this bill is wrong. Can you go and come with a formidable waste management bill that we can approve as a county committee prior to assembly approval? No one came back to us again. Then we said, okay, how do you go to manage waste management in the county if you don't have the parameters and the policies? So these are failure that we have. So we said, no, we're waiting a county assembly. That's why I could not wait beyond. I wrote the speaker and said, Speaker, kindly reconstitute back the assembly for emergency sitting to discuss the challenges facing Nairobi in terms of waste management. So in the process of discussing, the assembly approves, there's a problem in the county. Then subsequent now, the standing order says now, you come up with a substantive motion before the assembly of low confidence against these officers.
Was Kidera not, where one would ask a question, was Kidera avoiding the motion, members of the county assembly discussing this motion, so that is why he decided to
if Kidera was avoiding the question, I believe he could have just reshuffled one office. I believe so. He could have just fired Ondiek and fired Dr. Leo Eke. But here is a governor who has done an overhaul.
So you support the
in
overhaul?
The sector. Fully 100%. Even I texted and I say, Governor, you are doing something good for the sector. And for
but aren't you just supporting the governor because you come from the same political party?
I support ideologies. I don't just support parties. But also I'm proud of my party because that's where we belong. And you have no apologies to make.
So right now, if the governor would run again, you'd vote for him?
100%. That I can assure you.
According to his performing?
According to his performance. And
but then according to Nairobians, he has failed.
I don't think so. Everybody has a right, because Nairobi is a mixture of the Jubilee supporters and CORD and Wiper.
So according to you, the sentiments that are out, is this because
it's political. Look at yesterday. Can I ask you a question, Brenda, today? If you are fired today from Ibru, do you go tomorrow to Nation TV and say Ibru was wrong? That's a reactionary statement, for heaven's sake.
Of course, there has to be a reason as to why your boss releases you off the duty.
But I believe if Ondiek could have shown the media the letter was written by the governor, why he was relieved of his duties, I believe.
But you know what? The reason as to why Nairobians have so many questions about Ondieke's firing, it's because the press release that was sent out to newsrooms didn't explain why Ondieke is being relieved of his duty.
There's a difference between an internal memo from the CS, the county secretary.
Because now it leaves space, it gives room for people to...
What went to the press was a statement for the county secretary.
Okay.
The county secretary is the accounting officer of the county, which is given instructions by the governor. From today henceforth, I've relieved this officer so-and-so duties because of kindly do a memo to all the directors, all the chief officers, all the other. That's the memo which went to the press. But the nitty-gritties why Ondiek was relieved of duties, he has the letter. What contains what, why. Okay,
I'll just cut you short from there. We're taking a short break. Of course, we shall be back with more of this discussion tonight. So keep it Ebu Africa TV.